Hi, welcome to videos. So people a lot of times will think of scales as just doing a rote movement through it, and that's perfectly fine when you're first learning a scale or if you're trying to get better at your technique. That's only going to be the first level on this. All the levels after that, we're going to get into everything else there is to do with scales. Scales to me is a tool to help you improvise and compose better, understand other people's music and learn it easier, improve your technique, basically everything that has to do with being a better musician. So that's the focus on this. Some of these areas I still practice myself and get new ideas from. This is not going to be about specific licks. Almost all these levels I've already done standalone videos in which I teach exercises and licks. So I will leave links in the comment section on YouTube so you can click on those and get more details on this. This is going to be an overview. I'm going to run through all these different levels, hopefully in just 2-3 minutes each, and give you the gist of them and give you a structured kind of format in which you can practice them. The structure can be changed though. I've never actually, until this video, written up a specific order like this, even though I've been teaching for over 30 years, because normally in private lessons I individualize it to a person. So you can also individualize these. They don't have to always go in the order I put them in. And the last ones aren't necessarily the most advanced ones. Some of the ones that you'll get the most practice from are actually in the middle of the list. Some of the ones I put towards the end, I did so because I thought they were good things to try, but not as important as some of the things I wanted you to start working earlier on. This, you can kind of take a look, is the overview of what I'm going to go through today. So it's a lot. There's 22 levels. Each level has multiple other points that I'm going to cover on it to give you tips and ideas on how to use that level. I'm not going to be a tab on this, but this entire overview will be available for free on my Patreon page. If you want to become a member of my Patreon page, I would definitely appreciate you can do it for as low as $1 a month. But all my stuff will always be free, even if you don't. But just writing this, just typing this took me over 6 hours. So I'd appreciate if some people became Patreons. But either way, I'll keep putting the information out. So let's jump into this. So it doesn't matter what scale you're working on. If this is your first scale or if you already know your entire neck. But if we're going to start at the beginning and we'll rapidly move up to more advanced stuff. So you're learning a new scale. That's where you start off. First, you need to decide on what fingering you're going to use. Now, you might just be copying one of a book or off one of my videos. I have videos that teach all of your diatonic scales and other ones like harmonic minor and hirajoshi and pentatonic, etc. So you can check those out for that. I'm not teaching any scales in this video. So, but what you need to do in deciding fingering, it won't always be the same ascending and descending. For example, if I'm doing this minor scale in the key of C major, I'm going to try and keep everything in C major for this video, just to make it simpler. When I get to this fingering, I use first and third, because that way I can easily come back to the notes I just came from, and then when I need to shift, I'm here. And the same thing down here, I'm going to use second and fourth, so I can return back to these other notes until I need to shift. So sometimes a fingering will be different ascending and descending, so you want to think about those things when you're going through your scales. Also, when you're improvising, I might practice a scale this way, but if I'm just coming up to each and hit a single note, I'm going to use these fingers. I'm not going to shift my hand until I need to know I need to reach for this. So practicing a scale and improvising with a scale sometimes can be different things. So just realize that. Basically, the most important thing, and this is the most important probably of this whole page, is play clean. Go slow enough that you're getting good notes, get good finger placement. If you're not playing it clean, slow it down and don't move on until you can do it clean. Memorize it as quick as possible. Until you memorize it, you really can't create music from it. It's just a finger exercise. So try and always don't rely on the tab. Memorize it as quick as possible. Level 2. Work on picking and a legato sound on your scales. Legato basically just means there's no pause between the notes. Staccato would be if you're going like this. At first, while staccato has some valid musical uses, I want you guys, if you're starting out especially, to really focus on every note, especially on string changes, to sustain till the next note starts. There's no pauses or hesitation on there, because most beginners, when they start off, will release the note too early and there'll be a pause between them. So try and avoid that habit. As far as picking, just do a down note picking is what I'd recommend if you're a beginner. So if you did a downstroke, doesn't matter if I'm changing strings to a string above it or below it, the next one's going to be upstroke if I just did down. Same thing if I do upstroke, doesn't matter if I'm on the same string or changing strings, the next one will be down. That's alternate picking. You can also do economy picking where you put little sweeps in. If you want more on that, I've got a video on that. Again, all the stuff I have separate videos on. But if you're beginners, just start with the alternate picking. So level 3. This is when it starts getting a little bit more fun. So improvisation drills. I want you to right away, as soon as you got memorized, you got your picking and got clean notes, start using some improvising. Of course, you can learn licks from songs too. I didn't put that on this list, but that's kind of a given that you're going to be learning solos and other things from other people too. I want you to improvise right away because the whole point of scales is to make music, not to just play scales. So the first drill is a continuous play drill. What that means is basically, if you think of like if I'm learning the alphabet and I say it A through Z every time, but then I guess start in the middle of it and go backwards, I'm probably going to hesitate. Same thing, if I play a scale the same every time, ascending all the way and then descending all the way, and then suddenly improvising, I have to start in the middle somewhere, and I have to change directions, that's going to be hard. So this drill is just play continuously. Doesn't matter if you skip notes or as long as you stay in the scale, or go continuously just in order. At first, you can just do them in order, but don't stop. If you get lost, still try not to stop if you can help it. If you are thinking, okay, I'm not sure what note's next, play the notes you know. And then you say, oh, okay, it's that note. That way you get used to thinking while you're playing. All right? And not when something goes wrong, you stop and it's like, okay, what do I do next? Try and avoid that. So this drill is playing continuously. At later stages, you can add in stuff like arpeggios and intervals and sequences and position shifts, and you can make this a more advanced drill. Right now, you're just trying not to get lost, and you're trying to memorize the scale better so that you don't get lost. And the second improvisation drill, this is kind of the opposite. Instead of playing continuously, it's all about the pause. So it's a phrasing drill. You're going to do short, middle, long phrases, and you're going to listen to how the notes sound that you stop on. You can add a vibrato if you want. So you're going to kind of move through it. First, anytime you're doing a drill, don't worry about if it sounds good or not. That's the whole point of a drill. The difference between actually playing and practicing, you're trying to get better at something. Playing, you're trying to make it sound good. It's okay when practicing to make mistakes and to experiment and try things. So you can sit there and go, okay, I'm going to play here, and then does that note sound good? No, it works, but let's see. Maybe I like that one better, or I like that one better. It's not right or wrong. It's what you like, because it's your own music. So then you say, okay, since I like this shape, I'm going to remove a scale around the ends of that. Then maybe I'll go up to this note. But if I hit one that doesn't sound as good, or go outside key, don't worry. Just listen to it, say, okay, that was a mistake. Acknowledge it and keep going. Okay. Next one, play and actually make it try and sound like music. So combine both those drills together and just improvise. Again, if you only know one scale, you're staying in that one scale. If you don't know anything, like if you don't feel comfortable jumping between and skipping notes or adding other techniques, then just move back and forth in the scale and try and make it sound like something. If you know other things you can do where you can shift and stuff, that all comes later. We'll add all those different possibilities, and it gets much easier to improvise and make it sound good when you have lots of options. So as we go through these levels, you'll get more options. We'll return back to some of these drills, and you'll try those with those new options added. Okay, level 4, harmony, playing over chords, or at least a bass run or a riff or something. It doesn't have to be chords, but basically you're trying to now hear how the notes you play, you're still improvising with background of some sort. So the easiest way to start is have a single chord play. If you're in key of C major, you can use any of the chords. Doesn't matter which scale you're in, you can still use any of the chords. So C, F, and G major, A minor, D minor, E minor, and B minor flat 5. So maybe play like A minor, but you can also play a C major, whatever you want. It could be a bar chord, open chord, doesn't matter. Get that recorded or on loop or something so you can hear it back. And first thing to try, if you're a beginner, just move through each one slowly and listen to how the note sounds with the chord in the background. See how it harmonizes and kind of make a mental note of, okay, this sounds good over that A minor chord. And then start doing your improvising drills. So you can do either any of those three where you just did. Just go right into free improvising, or the phrasing, or the continuous playing ones, and listen to how it sounds over the single chord. When that feels comfortable and you can get it sound pretty good over that chord, add a second chord. So get a 2-chord progression that repeats. Give yourself long enough on each chord that you can kind of stay relaxed and not have to feel rushed to get to your next chord change. When that feels okay and you can do that, then add full chord progressions, and you can add whatever you want. You can add minors, sevens, major sevens, or you can just, if you like maybe more just metal, you can just power chords, or you can do just a bass line, whatever you want. Now, and at this point, it's good to just find backing tracks. So wherever key you're in, do a search for backing tracks on YouTube. You can find tons of backing tracks. Try and find one where you can see the chord progression on the screen, and it shows you where in the chord progression you are. That will make it easier for you to improvise over and not get lost, so you know exactly which chord you're on while you're improvising. Eventually, yes, it's good to be able to hear that, but at first it's more important that you actually know where you're at in the progression, and then you can always stop looking at some point. Okay, so number 5. So again, we're going to go through these. They're going to continue to get more complex. At this point, you're going to add a rhythm or metronome to it. If you haven't already, you can start off earlier with using a metronome, but if you're a beginner, I don't want you to get worried about metronome when you're still trying to get notes clean, or you're still trying to figure out your picking or memorize it, because it's too much to think about. It's another distraction. If you can't play a note clean, don't worry about anything else. If you still making mistakes with picking, don't try and add it in a metronome. But at this point, if you feel comfortable, add in a metronome. So you can do in different groupings. You can do chord notes, which is 1 note per beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do eighth notes, 2 notes a beat, 1 and 2 and 3, and triplets, 1 and 2 and 16th notes, 1 E and 2 E. And so, but on the faster ones, you can also slow down the beat. So I could be doing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and, or we could do 16th notes, 1 E and 2 E and so with the same beat, 16th notes are twice as fast as eighth notes. But if you put eighth notes at a beat where the beat's going faster, it doesn't have to actually be faster. So you can practice different groupings even if you're not super fast. Okay. Once you feel comfortable with those basic groupings, try different rhythmic groupings. You can combine them together even. You can run through a scale doing something like a quarter note and then eighth notes, so like 1, 2 and 3, 4 and, or 1 and 2 and and combine different ones here, and then you can even improvise with thinking about different rhythms. You can first just have a set one, like I'm gonna go triplets to eighth notes back and forth, but eventually you can kind of change it in your mind as you're going, or write something on paper and then follow that rhythm as you run through the scale. Okay, number 6, build speed. So you got a lot of your basics down, but you probably want to start playing faster at some point. So first I'd recommend decide what kind of picking you're going to do. At this point, you've been playing for a while, hopefully. This isn't something you're going to run through in the first day, or you shouldn't be, so you're not going to really, it's more important that you get things done well than you rush through things. So decide at this point, if you're starting off, are you going to continue with alternate picking, or are you going to start doing economy picking? You can change that at any point, but personally, I did alternate picking for the first 4.5, 5 years I was playing. And when I switched to economy picking, it was tough. The first couple weeks or so, I kept going back to alternate picking subconsciously without intending to, because it's such a habit. So it's good before you've been playing it too long, for years, to decide which one. But you can always change at any point. Okay, so as far as speed, the most important thing is efficiency. You also want to develop, consistency and your synchronization, but efficiency is what gives you speed. It's not how fast your fingers move, but how little they move. If you think of it this way, if I pick up my pinky like this far, that's about 1 inch. Maybe from your angle you can't see it that much, but if I now pick up this much, that's about 1/2 inch. Not much difference. In fact, looking at my angle, you probably have trouble seeing much difference at all. But at 1/2 inch, I'm moving half as much as I am at 1 inch. So if you put that into a larger distance, analogy I use quite often is if you're running a race. If I say, okay, you're going to run 100 yards, I'm going to run 50 yards. It doesn't really matter probably how fast you are, unless I'm just really slow. I can probably beat you running 50 yards and you're running 100, because you're probably not more than twice as fast as me. Which, same thing here. If I move my fingers half as much, I don't have to move them super fast because I'm being efficient on it. If you can then combine speed and efficiency, that's when you can hit, no boundaries pretty much. But don't worry about getting faster. Your ability gets so much faster. Your body can only move so fast. Focus on the efficiencies. That's where you get your biggest gains. Use a metronome. That's a good way to progress. The reason being, you move up in such small increments, you won't even notice that you're going faster. If I start at 80 metronome at like 16th notes, let's say, that number refers to how many beats per minute. So if I move it up to 84, I just added 4 beats total in a minute. So that means one new beat every 15 seconds. So that's probably not even noticeable that if you're only doing one more beat in every 15 seconds, but yet you still got faster. So if I go from 80 to 84, I might not really notice any difference. But if I can do it cleanly at 84 now, I'm a little bit faster. If a couple days there I move up to 88, again, I'm moving up a little faster. It's like lifting weights. If you're lifting 50 pounds, you don't go to 100 pounds. You go maybe 55 or 60. You make small increments. Then you can do it and still keep your technique good. That's the exact same thing here. Do small increments over a month, 2 months, you're going to be quite a bit faster if you move it up even 1 or 2 metronome things every week. And you can practice at different speeds. I would recommend sometimes when you're really working on efficiency or if something's difficult, practice it really slow and really focus on, okay, I'm not going to move my fingers much. I'm going to move my pick very small. And then practice it like I was talking about with the metronome, and maybe a comfortable speed or a speed that pushes yourself a little bit, but you're still not making mistakes. And then practice at max speed where you start off maybe slow, and then you gradually go faster and faster, not worrying about if you make mistakes and not using metronome on it. Because at the occasional max speed practice, the intention is to push yourself beyond your boundaries. Mentally, if you're focused on don't make mistakes, you might hold yourself back. Now, you don't want to make mistakes, but occasionally trying to push yourself faster, it can break through a mental barrier. Or if you're focused on the metronome, that might slow you down. So, occasionally do that with no metronome. Don't worry if you make a mistake and just go as fast as you can. Then go back to your controlled speed in which you're not making mistakes. Then that you won't ingrain bad habits from that max speed, but you find that you might be a little bit faster from doing that. So again, I've got whole videos on this. I think my building speed video is like 15 minutes long, so a lot more to it than that, but I'm trying to give you the gist of it. Number 7, dynamics, and add new scales if you haven't already. So basically dynamics is your volume. So a way to practice this is start off quiet or loud, either one, and then run through a scale, or you can run through like a continuous play exercise, or some licks, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the scale is a good way to start with this, and then gradually go faster, and then so if you listen, not faster, louder. Then you can go back softer, and try and, as much as possible, have a fairly smooth increase on it. Try not to be jumpy. Don't go. It's going to sound disjointed. So this way, if you can control your dynamics well like that, then when you're doing scale runs, they can sound more interesting. You can emphasize notes more, either by making them softer than the notes around them or louder. Either way works. But if I do just a basic scale run, and then let's say I'm going here, and play evenly with even volume. Now if I just vary the volume without even making, and that's a really boring run, just straight scale run, I can make it more interesting, even without playing any notes different, any rhythm different, just by changing volume. So it adds, again, more options to your playing. If you're going to add new scales at this point, I recommend add adjacent ones. That way, when you're playing, if I know my A minor, I move up to like my Locrian or down to my mixed Lydian, I can shift between them more easily. If I add my A minor, or I have my A minor and they want to jump up to like a Phrygian, that's going to be harder to shift to without and have it still sound good, because I'm going to have to do big jumps. So add your adjacent scales first and then gradually build out further and further from that. If up until this point you've only played pentatonics, if you've done like the natural minor, minor pentatonic, add your natural minor scale, like I've been demonstrating with. And then something you can do with this, practice going back and forth between pentatonics. So play lick in pentatonics, for example, and then go into a diatonic scale, or you can practice going to the adjacent scales. If that's your new scale, play in this scale for a little bit and then shift to the next one. If you know more than two, shift to that. And you can go back to any of those improvising drills, do a continuous playing exercise, moving between the different scales, or the phrasing exercise or free improvising, moving between the scales. Okay, next one, number 8. And this is when, honestly, it starts getting into the stuff that you'll probably be working on possibly the rest of your life. These aren't things you're just going to master. They're ideas on how to create new ideas. The first one's sequences. The sequence is just a pattern. So it's thinking of the scale not in the notes like A, B, C, but in numbers. And we haven't gotten to intervals yet, but not in intervals either. So if I was thinking of this in intervals, it'd be a 1, 2, flat, 3. If I was doing like the Locrians, it would be 1, flat, 2, flat, 3. But if I'm thinking sequence, it's just 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3. So the shape 1, 2, 3. So I'm not differentiating between major and minor or any other alteration. It's just counting up the scale in the numbers. Now the advantage of this then, if I have a sequence and I'm going to then move that through the scale, let's say just do something simple. Try these simple ones first. Like 1, 2, 3. All I'm going to do is go 1, 2, 3. Then move to the second note and go. Think of that as my 1 now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I can move through it. When I get to first string, I can reverse that. And now the first note I start on is the 1. Now, so that would be 1, 2, 3. And again, I can move through that. The idea isn't necessarily that you're going to use those as licks. The idea is that you're getting used to starting the sequence, wherever it is, on every note on the scale, both ascending and descending. So, for example, I might do a 1, 3, 2. 1, 3, 2. So you gain little melodic pieces that you can then group back together and make larger things. So some other ones I put on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 2. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 1. And again, some of these 1, 2, 3, 1 will sound different whether you're ascending or descending. So, and just you can make up any of your own or pull them out of songs. Look at, I did a video on Paganini's Modo Perpetual, and it wasn't so much about teaching the Paganini piece. What I demonstrated is how you pull sequences out of it and then use those sequences in your own playing. Same thing here. If you take some of these simple ones I've already done, I can then improvise something and go, okay, here's my 1, 2, 3. Then I'm just going to do a straight scale run. Maybe I then go 1, 2, 3, 1. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So most licks can be broken down in some sort of simple sequence. By seeing that, it allows you to understand possibilities without necessarily having to know a lot of music theory in this case. Not that music theory is anything wrong with that. And it also allows you to take a similar idea. So if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to sound similar no matter what scale I do it in. But I'm actually going to be doing different groupings depending on which scale I do it in. So it allows me to move it through into any position without having to think about major, minor, and all that other stuff. It's just the numbers. Okay. So anyways, that's sequences. Create your own licks on it. Next one, intervals we're going to go back to. Or go to. I kind of mentioned those briefly. Intervals are different than the sequence. These are counting through in numbers, but your numbers are coming through is from your major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or octave. And anything that deviates from that, then you'll say a sharp to flat. So if I go 1, 2, and do a minor third, that's one less than the major, so it's a flatted third. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and go this note, that could be considered either a sharp 4 or a flat 5. So learning intervals is a really good both ear training exercise. It can help you to hear what's happening. You can hear it both in chords and single notes. You can hear a movement of a fifth. You can hear it in single notes. So by recognizing those intervals, that will help you to hear what other people are doing and know what it will sound like when you do it. You can also do it as a technique exercise. A really good way to practice them is take like thirds and move it through, just like we did sequences, move it through every note of the scale, reverse it, same thing. I can take any intervals I want. Thirds are probably the most useful, but fifths sound cool. You can try fourths, you can try reverse seconds. So the normal second is just a regular scale run, but if I reverse it and go from the 2 to the 1, then I can practice that as an option. You know, I can do fifths. Again, not worrying about, in this case, if I keep it in key, I will always have the right note. In this case, there's a flat 5 in the key, so okay, you play the flat 5. I'm not going to go outside key. I'm going to play, it's kind of like a sequence here, and that will give me the correct major and minor thirds, fifths and flat fifths. They're in the key. Okay, so intervals, great thing to practice, and you can, so much of licks are created from that. And if you just do a pentatonic scale, that's a minor third. So you have those, you're already playing some of these intervals, so it's just a matter of working them into your playing. So you know, there you use the third here and our third here, both major thirds. Arpeggios. Understanding intervals helps you with arpeggios because most arpeggios are just stacked thirds. So if I'm doing my major or minor triad, if you notice, here's a minor, and it's just a minor third and a major third stacked on top of each other. My goal octave is a fourth. So arpeggios, basically it's a whole study area in itself, I would say, but they fit within your scales if you are saying in key. I've got actually a couple dozen videos just on arpeggios, so lots of ways to work those, but relating them to scales, some of the things you can do is first find which arpeggios fit within a specific scale. So you can find the big ones, like I was just doing. You know, you can take 5th string, 6th string root ones and work those, but you can also take single octave ones and find where those are. If you know multiple scales, then you can start doing larger fingerings that span more than one scale position. Seeing where they fit in the scales is real important, and it'll be the same ones as the chords we talked about earlier. So A, D, and E will be minor arpeggios. If you're just starting off with arpeggios, I recommend just using the 3-note triad arpeggios. When I say 3 notes, there's only 3 different notes, but you can still play them in multiple octaves. C, F, G are your major ones, and you have a B minor flat 5. So find those triads all through it. If you find one arpeggio, if that's a minor one, that started on D. In this key I said D, E, and A are minor, so I can use that same fingering then on any of those 3 notes. So see where each fingering can be used in the different scale positions. And then also start practicing combine your scales and arpeggios together. So play something like A minor arpeggio, and then go right into a scale run, or play a scale run and then go into arpeggio. So you can blend these all together. And again, everything I'm playing in this video is improvised. That's why there's no tab for any of this. The focus is on the concepts. Go to the individual videos I have done already in these, and I'll have a lot of tabbed out licks and exercises. Okay, so arpeggios, great way to create melody. And any of these things that we just talked about, sequences, intervals, arpeggios, you can go back to like those continuous playing or improvising drills and try and work them into there. And that's a good thing to do. Or you're playing over chords exercise. Okay, next one, 11. Play scales across the whole neck in one key. So basically, if you don't already know them, it's good to learn both the 2 and 3 note per string scales which would be, like I was just playing earlier, sometimes called a standard position or box position. But it's also good to know the 3-note per string scales, which instead of doing 2, then I'll reach forward for that note that I was reaching backwards for. The advantage of the 3-note per string ones, it gives you consistent picking throughout, and it moves you forward one position if you want that, and it gives you another option basically. So it's good to know both of them. By knowing both of them, your scales start blending together, because if I have the one G mixed leading here, then I can come forward and here's also a G mixed leading, but see how it overlaps into the next scale. So I've got an exercise that runs through all of them in the key, combining all those together. So that's a good one to try. And that's what you want to do, is try and see the scale as not individual positions, but start seeing it as one big idea. So they can kind of shift at any point between them. So at first you might play down, ascend one scale, descend another one, but eventually you want to just be anywhere you. And I'm down in a Dorian position, but I can shift back to this low queen, I can shift in this natural minor, I can shift in this mixed leading. It doesn't matter. You can see how everything connects together, and that's what a lot of these drills where I'm teaching different fingerings for scales are about, is visually, mentally, but I'll connect them, everything together, and physically, but I'll connect them together at any point. Okay, so that was 11 that we just did, so now 12. Play scales on a single string. This will also help you to see the whole neck. Basically, you're going to practice moving up and down a single string. Now, you could do this just with one finger at first. That, and say the notes to yourself is a good thing to do on this. So again, you start to learn the notes better too on the neck. You can do it and then shift your hand forward on. But where I think this really comes into its own is when you start putting sequences into it or improvising with it. So learn all 6 strings in the key you're in, so you can play from open all the way up to the neck, and then take one of them like this and go. So here's that 1, 2, 3 sequence. As I play this, it just naturally moves forward or backwards, same thing. So this will help you with your position shifting. Play 1, 2, 3, 4. This again, within that one thing, will get you shifting positions. So then when you're improvising, and I'm playing something here, there's that 1, 2, 3, 4. I can at any point, there's that 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Anytime you have a 4-note grouping, that will shift you positions. So, also look at the different intervals. You can play up this in thirds. You can jump forward a fourth. Again, that helps you get the sound of the different intervals in your head. It helps you to see different options. Yes, it might be easier to play this fourth right here, but it sounds a little bit different, but also it puts you in a different position, which opens you up to other possibilities that you might not have down here. Okay, so that was playing scales on a single string. So now we're going to go 6-note fingerings. So what this is, I just want you to be kind of aware that if you play the first 6 notes of any of the modes, the Dorian, Phrygian, etc., all of them except the major, in this case, mixed leading in this case, and the major, that's why I say major, those two share the same first 6 notes. All of the other ones have a unique one. So if you're doing a natural minor, it's this. Locrian is half step, whole step twice. Major is whole step twice. Again, I'm doing 3 notes per strings on these, so I can see these shapes easy. That'd be Dorian, Phrygian, and Lydian. So by being able to see which shape corresponds with which mode, let's say you're learning someone else's music, and you see something like this, then you can go, okay, well, that was my natural minor position. And when I play that, the first note's the root. So what's this note? What's the E? So that means I'm in E natural minor. Not, I mean, you could consider this that, but I mean, that's what scales and key I'm in, is the E minor. You could also look at it and say, okay, where does this fit? So if you go back to your key of C major and find, okay, here's my A. So you can say, okay, where do I have this? And this is a good drill, is just work through where all those ones fit in the key. This will also help you knowing your octaves and the notes on the neck better. You can say, okay, well, where does that fit on this first two strings? Well, it fits within my 3-note per string major scale. So same thing here. And I know what scale I can be playing from. And there's my major. The E minor is in the key of G major. And that's a good thing to do with these two. If you can spot where the major note in that 6-note grouping is, here's my major root, then that will help you find your key quicker too. So look for the first note is the root of the mode that the finger comes from, and then find where the root of the key is too. And that way, when I'm in my Lydian, I can also know, well, there's my major key. So I can quickly identify wherever I play that. If I do this shape and they move it here, there's my G. So I'm back into key of G major. Okay. All right, so 6-note groupings. So again, find all those in octaves. It's a good way to transpose ideas too. If I have some sort of lick here, I can then quickly move it to another position just by seeing where our 6-note grouping is. Okay, next one, 14, learn, practice new keys if you haven't already. So basically, fingers will be the same in new keys. So if I know like a minor scale, all I have to do if I want a B minor is play the same fingering in this higher position. So, but it still takes a while. So go back to as basic a level as you need to. If you need to go all the way back to 1, that's what you kind of do. You have to memorize it first. If you are losing your ability to remember what it is when it's at a new position, if you're used to only playing one key, it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to another key. So learn different keys. Practice changing between those keys. You can do it with or without a backing track. That has key changes. Let's go and move on. So 15. A good thing to do is try other scales that are outside the key. So like harmonic minor, melodic minor are good choices. But really any scale that looks interesting to you, that you've seen someone play or you've seen in a book or something. Compare how these scales are similar to the ones in the diatonic, especially like if you are doing harmonic and melodic minor. You'll see if you compare the harmonic minor to your natural minor, the only difference is this note, which is your 7th. Instead of being a flat 7, it's a major 7, if you're thinking intervals, or you can think of it as just pushed up 1. What's it give a difference in sound? If I play natural minor, now I play harmonic minor, that draws you into that root a little bit stronger. So a way you can then use this is you can just put your harmonic minor into your regular diatonic playing as a variation, as something different. So I can be playing my regular minor scale, and you can put that harmonic minor in. I can at any point go back into my natural minor scale, and then at any point go back into harmonic minor. Melodic minor, if you look at that, basically it's, if I take a major scale, it's just putting a flat 3rd into my major scale. So anytime you want to emphasize these, since they potentially can be similar to the scales you're already playing, emphasize the note that changes, and that will give you that sound a little bit stronger. Of course, you can play entire solo just in harmonic minor or melodic minor, but you can also use it just as a variation to get a different sound in your regular diatonic scales using your major and minor scales. So next one, this kind of ties into it. It's parallel scales. So this is number 16. So basically a parallel scale is when you practice different scales from the same root. So instead of playing an A minor, then go up to B for locally and C for a major, which is all in one key, I can play all the modes off that A note or B note or C note. So I can play A minor. I can play the A Phrygian, which is also minor. The Dorian, I could play A major. Any of those. I could even go, like we were just saying, to harmonic or melodic minor. So a good thing to do with parallel scales is to compare the differences, just like I was just talking about before, and also go back to your improvising drills. play it over a chord and hear how it sounds. So like if you're playing A minor chord in the background, try all of your minor scales over that. What it'll be is it'll be in different keys, but it can still work over that. It'll just, and if you want to hear the different sounds, for example, if I'm playing natural minor, and I'll just improvise on it, then you can go into Phrygian, or you go into Dorian, and I can hear the different sounds of those different ones, and I can use it all in the same solo, or I could focus more on whichever one I want. Now the chords around it might force you to have to change to a different key. If the other chords might be more to, for example, if I'm playing, this is a Dorian, that's back in my key of G. If I'm playing this Phrygian scale, that's in the key of F. So you can, over that one chord, you can switch between any of the modes. But when you get to other chords, you're going to have to make sure that it still fits with those, or be switching at that point. So anyways, that's parallel scales. Go back to the improvising drills. Try and use that, both the ones with and without chords. Let's go and move on to the next one. So now we're up to 17, so we're almost through. So if you're still with me, you're doing a good job. And again, don't even worry about remembering all this. Come back, you'll download this so you can remind yourself, watch the full videos on these topics. This is 4 note per string possible fingerings. So basically I want you to identify and practice the different 4 note per string possibilities. There's only 4 possibilities really. If you did that 4 note sequence on the single note string one, you've already done all the possibilities. What you have is, if I play like on natural minor, it's the same fingering in those first 4 notes on the Dorian. If I play mixed Lydian, it's the same fingering on the major. If I play on Locrian, it's the same fingering as on the Phrygian, and then the Lydian is the one that's unique. So there's only a total of 4 possible fingerings on 4 notes per string. So really get comfortable with those. That will help you to do what we were talking about earlier, of being able to shift between your fingerings. And then you can take that if you want to, and you can optionally play 4 note per string scale. But to me, that's a little less practical. And the reason why, shifting is good with the 4 note per string, but if I do it on every string, I'm shifting so much that, and if you are trying to figure this out, just say no. So here I end on D, so my next solo will be E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. But if you notice, I played all the way from here to here in one scale fingering. So unless you're starting really high up in the neck, you're going to run out of frets before you even get through the whole scale. So most of the time, I will not play a whole 4 note per string fingering. I'll use it more as a way to shift between my regular positions. Or the next one, number 18, which is combining 3 note per string and 4 note per string to create new fingerings. This is a cool use of 4 note per string scale fingerings, I think. So basically you're going to add 4 note per string fingerings into your 3 note per string ones. And you can, the most common one is probably doing it on the octave of the rhythm. So I can play A minor and then do a 4 note one, basically sliding from the 7 up to the octave, and then I'm starting over. And then do the same thing. So that gives you one that has 2 shifts with the 4 notes per string, and the rest are 3 note per string. But don't limit yourself to that. You can shift on any string. So just randomly pick one. Say, okay, I'm going to do 4 notes on this one, then maybe 3 on the next 2, then 4, 4, 3. Maybe come back a different one. 4, 3, 3, 4. You can mix it up however you want. You can do couple 4 notes in a row, but in general I would say 2 to 4 note per string ones in a 6 string one is good. If you do one 4 note shift, it really doesn't give much difference than the standard 3 note per string. If you do 5, you're basically doing that huge 4 note per string scale, and it's kind of unwieldy. So do 2, do 3 shifts, maybe 4. I usually don't do more than about 3 in a row at the most. A lot of times it's just 2 in a row. So I might go something like that. I did 2 of 4 note per string and 2 of 3 note per string. Make up your own ones. It's experiment with it, improvise with it, create your own licks, and you can add in any of the stuff we've done previously. Any of these new fingerings you're working on, you can add in intervals, sequences, arpeggios, improvising exercises. Okay, next one, 19, simplified scales. This is an idea I really like. Basically, you're going to leave some of the notes off on your 3 note per string scale. So if I'm doing a 3 note per string scale, the problem with that is it sounds like a scale, which is kind of boring to me. You don't want scales to actually sound like scales, you want them to sound like music. So how do you get around that? Leave off any 1 or 2 notes on some of the strings. It doesn't have to be all the strings, it can be all the strings. So for example, I might do 2 notes, then 1 note, then 3. Then maybe coming back, I do 2, 3, and 2. You're going to do this on any sets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 3, 1, and 2. I can do this across all 6 strings, so I can go 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2. And again, I'm just doing these all off the top of my head. I didn't plan anything out. Just find somebody you like. That was 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Again, a different 2, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3. Unlimited possibilities. It adds so many different things you can do. Number 20, non-diatonic scales and outside notes. So basically, you can add individual notes that are outside of the key on this, and you've probably already done this by accident, but now you can do it more intentionally if you haven't. So for example, you're already probably have done this with the pentatonic scale. If you do a pentatonic scale and you add that flat 5, that makes it a blues scale, a common thing, which gives a little bit of tension and then resolution. So you can do it with your diatonic scales, your 7-note scales too. So you're going to be playing, and you can add a note that's outside of scale to create tension or variety. Sometimes it might kind of imply like a different mode or something in their scale too. You can also use non-diatonic scales such as diminished scale, whole tone scale, chromatic scale, and each one, the advantage of doing these versus just single notes. Now single notes you can add as many as you want to. I mean, it doesn't have to just be 1 note. I could be doing something like this. So you can add as many single notes outside of the scale as you want. But the actual scales, like diminished, they'll have more of a specific sound, or if I do a whole tone, again, they'll have different sounds or chromatic. And that's more of a chromatic. These are more lick sound, not just the straight scales. If I was doing the straight scale, it would be more all the notes in a row. But so create licks from these other ones and then blend them back into your regular scales, and that's a good exercise. So you can create something where you have a little bit of a chromatic feel, and then go right back into your normal scales. Okay. So one of the last ones, there's only one more after this, 21, 2-note per string scales. So what this does, kind of a weird angle there, it moves diagonally backwards. So if I play a 7-note scale but put only 2 notes on a string, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, each time I do a two-note grouping and change the next string, it moves me back 1. The exception would be, of course, if it goes C, D, E, F, the B string throwing it forward 1, they cancel each other out. So as a whole, kind of like the 4-note per string, I think it's kind of unwieldy, it's kind of awkward, but you're already doing this sum in your combined 2 and 3 note ones. So what you can do is you can work those just on different strings, so you're not doing them always in that same spot. So maybe I play this and I shift to a different spot, or you can do maybe 3 of them. Usually I'll use 2 or 3. I won't use much more than that, but it can be a good way to get a shift and then go right back into your normal scales. It gives you just another option of another angle that you can shift towards. Okay, So then, and number 22. So this last one before I do kind of a wrap up with some advice and in general stuff. So this is a miscellaneous one. I put it last because the ideas rely more on specific techniques, genres, or licks rather than being methods to practice a scale, like what I was trying to focus on. So for example, you could do something like, tapping, and you can tap, entire scale with your right hand. Watch videos by Stanley Jordan. He's probably the best person at this. He'll improvise solos with the right hand in scales while tapping chords with the left hand, or run harmony with both hands running through scales. So, you can, when tapping, you can hammer on and add single scale notes, or if you can tap full scales with this hand, you can do that. So that's another way to work your scales. Pedal licks, and you can also, do your whole scales with hammer-ons or pull-offs too, just like I was doing with the tapping, and that would be fine. Pedal licks is another one you can kind of take, and basically a pedal lick is when I'm repeating a note, or maybe a couple notes, and then moving through a scale in some sort of lick. So it's a way, again, you can practice your scales, but it's more of a lick than an actual method, even though you can create a lot of different licks from it. Octave displacement, another way you can kind of create some unusual licks. Basically, octave displacement, I'm going to take and move some of the notes from a scale run or a lick into a different octave. So if I'm going A, B, C, D, E, I can instead go A, B, C, D, E. I just did the exact same notes as this, but I threw the last three notes up an octave. So that's octave displacement. String skipping, kind of similar to octave displacement. I can take in, oops, it's messed up there, and move, basically skipping a string, move down a note and skip the string. I could also do it with arpeggios. And both, a lot of these licks, like the pedal licks, octave displacement, string skipping and stuff, you can also do stuff like hybrid picking or finger picking. Hybrid picking is just using the pick and then using your fingers at the same time. You can use that in chords, but you can use that on single note licks too. So there are many different ideas like this. You can pull out, look at the genre of music you like and try and see what the styles you like do. Maybe you're doing more fingerboard chord melody playing if you're a jazz player or something, and then see how your scales help or work into those different ideas. Okay, so you guys, thanks for sticking through all this, even if you're jumping around. This is meant as an overview, but definitely it's way more than you practice at a single time. Again, there's so many different ideas on this, so play something for a while, come back to this video, get more ideas, download this, get more ideas, refresh your memory. So, like I've already said, scales are not the end of themselves. They're just a method to improve your playing. So always try and do something new with them, or push yourself to do something more complex, or at least play them more efficiently or better or cleaner. If you just do the same rote exercise and you do it for like 10 years, you're not going to be any better at the end of the 10 years than you were after a month or whenever you first got that scale down. So that's where a lot of times I see people arguing about, is it important to practice scales? Well, it depends. If you're just practicing it straight up and down like that, it's not that important. It's not helping you that much beyond some basic coordination. You have to make it into music. Don't get overwhelmed with this stuff. Some of these levels you might only try once and think, I get it. I don't want to do it though. It's not something I'm interested in. That's fine. Feel free to discard any of this stuff. These are ideas. They're not things that I necessarily do all this stuff. I don't do a lot of, for example, some of these last things on the miscellaneous. I don't do a lot of tapping anymore. I used to actually run scales with the right hand, but I haven't done that for a while. But find the things you like and incorporate those in your playing and make them your own. Okay. To get better at anything, you always have to be challenging yourself, whether it's, like I said, learn something new, something more complex, or getting better with it. use these ideas to help you know notes on neck better. So a lot of these exercises, you can kind of say the names of the notes to yourself, and that will help you to understand things better. So it's really, I think, an important thing to know the notes on the neck if you don't know those. Many of these levels can be taken in different orders, like I mentioned earlier. Individualize it to what you want. Kind of go through it, and then pick out the ones you want to continue with. It's better to be good at just a couple ideas than to rush through a bunch of ones and not be able to apply them. If you don't get to a point where you can really apply them in your playing, your improvising, your writing, your etc., they aren't going to help you that much. But most importantly, just have fun with it. Take things slowly. Go at the speed that you're comfortable with. If you learn one new thing in a day or practice session, you're getting better. Even if it's a very small thing, you don't have. That's something I used to try and aim for. Is I would say, okay, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna get better or learn one new thing. It might just be make up a new lick that you like. It might be learn something out of a book or a video. Anyways, so I'm gonna wrap up with this. I will put again links in the comment section for the other videos that go in more depth on this stuff. You can download this from our Patreon page, which will be in the description. The link will be. And please like the video. If you can share it, or if you haven't subscribed, please do. I'm trying to build my channel. Thanks a lot, you guys.